Hey everyone, welcome back. If you're listening right now, I want you to relax your face for a second. Unclench your jaw, drop your shoulders. I'm Emma.
And I'm Alex, and today we're talking about a moment that almost every English learner knows very well. That moment when you're speaking and the other person looks at you and says, "Sorry? Can you repeat that? I don't understand."
And suddenly, your heart beats a little faster. Your mind goes blank, and you start thinking, did I say it wrong? Was my pronunciation bad? Should I stop talking?
Yeah, that moment can feel really uncomfortable. Not because your English is bad, but because being misunderstood touches something emotional.
It can make you feel small. It can make you doubt yourself. And sometimes it can make you want to disappear from the conversation.
I remember a moment like that very clearly. I was ordering food in another country, speaking their language, and a cashier kept saying, "Huh? Again? I don't get it." And after the third time, I felt my confidence just drop.
Yeah, and the thing is, misunderstandings happen to everyone. Native speakers, fluent speakers, even people speaking their own language.
But when it happens in English, our brain tells a different story. It tells us you're bad at English, you shouldn't speak, you're embarrassing yourself.
And that inner voice is usually louder than the actual problem, because the real problem is often very simple. The person didn't hear you, or they were distracted, or they're not used to your accent, or the environment is noisy.
Not because you failed.
So today, we're going to slow this down. We'll talk about why misunderstandings feel so personal, how to repeat yourself calmly, how to rephrase without panic, and how to stay emotionally steady when people don't understand you.
And we'll do it the same way we always do here, with real stories, real emotions, real English you can actually use.
No pressure, no perfection, just progress.
All right, let's move into the first block. Let's start with something very honest. Being misunderstood doesn't just feel like a language problem, it feels like a personal problem. And that's why it hurts more than we expect. Because when you speak, you're not only sharing words, you're sharing thoughts, intentions, a part of yourself. Yeah, and when someone doesn't understand you, your brain doesn't say, "Oh, okay, maybe the sound wasn't clear." Your brain says, "They didn't understand me."
Exactly. And that reaction happens very fast, almost automatically. You might notice your chest tighten a little, your shoulders tense, your smile freeze.
I've felt that many times. I remember being in a meeting, speaking English, explaining an idea that I had prepared carefully, and someone interrupted me and said, "Sorry, what do you mean?" And suddenly I felt like my intelligence disappeared.
Yes. And the crazy thing is, that same situation happens to us in our native language too. Someone asks us to repeat, someone looks confused. But in our native language, we usually don't panic.
Right, we just rephrase, we slow down, we try again. But in English, our emotions get involved.
Because English is not just a tool yet, it's still connected to fear. Fear of sounding silly, being judged, being seen as less capable.
And here's something really important. Most misunderstandings have nothing to do with your level of English.
Let's talk about real reasons people don't understand. Sometimes the place is noisy. Sometimes the other person is tired. Sometimes they're thinking about something else. Sometimes your accent is simply different from what they're used to.
And accents are not mistakes, they're history, they're background, they're proof that you learned more than one language.
But emotionally, it still feels heavy because your brain goes into alarm mode. It starts asking questions like, should I stop talking? Did I sound stupid? Are they judging me?
And here's where many learners freeze. They don't know what to do next. They think if I repeat it, I'll make it worse. If I say it differently, I'll mess up. So they go quiet.
And silence in that moment doesn't feel calm. It feels like giving up.
I once saw this happen to a friend. We were at a dinner with international coworkers. She said something simple about her weekend. Someone leaned forward and said, I didn't catch that." And she laughed politely, but then she didn't try again.
Yeah, and later she told me, I just didn't want to feel stupid again. That sentence stayed with me.
Because that's the emotional layer we rarely talk about. It's not about English, it's about dignity, confidence, feeling seen.
And here's something gentle I want to say. Being misunderstood does not mean you failed. It means communication is happening.
Exactly. Misunderstanding is not the opposite of communication. Silence is.
When someone says, I don't understand, they are still engaged. They are still listening. They want to understand.
That's a huge shift in perspective. Instead of hearing, you're bad at English, try to hear, help me understand you better.
And that shift alone can calm your body. Your shoulders drop, your breath slows.
Because once you stop seeing misunderstanding as a failure, you can start seeing it as a normal part of conversation.
In the next block, we'll talk about what usually happens inside your head right after someone doesn't understand you, why your mind goes blank, and how to stop that spiral gently.
Yeah, that moment where your brain just says, nope, I'm done. We're going to slow that moment down.
So take a breath with us. And when you're ready,
Let's talk about that moment. The moment when someone says, sorry, or I didn't understand. And suddenly, your brain goes quiet. Not calm quiet, empty quiet.
yes, it's like someone turned off the lights inside your mind. You were talking, you had ideas, you were mid thought, and then nothing.
And the scary part is how fast it happens. 1 second you're speaking, the next second your thoughts disappear.
That's because your brain thinks something went wrong. And when a brain feels threatened, even emotionally, it doesn't focus on language. It focuses on survival.
Your body reacts first. Your heart beats faster. Your breath becomes shallow. Your muscles tense. And your brain says, danger, stop.
But here's the important thing. The danger is not real. No one is attacking you. No one is laughing. No one is judging your worth as a human being.
Yet, the brain doesn't care about logic in that moment. It only cares about protection.
That's why trying to think harder doesn't work. You can't force calm. You have to allow it.
I remember one time at work when a colleague asked me to repeat something. I felt my face get hot. My mind started shouting, say it right this time.
Oh yeah, that inner voice can be brutal. It says things like, don't mess up again, speak faster, fix it now.
And that voice doesn't help. It makes the freeze worse. Because now you're not just repeating information, you're performing under pressure.
Exactly. And pressure kills clarity.
That's why people often repeat the exact same sentence in the exact same way. Louder, faster, more tense,
As if volume fixes confusion.
right? And when that doesn't work, the panic grows.
Here's something many learners don't realize. Freezing is not a sign of low ability. It's a sign of high self-awareness.
Yes, you care. You want to be understood. You want to communicate well. And that care, ironically, is what causes the freeze.
I've seen people with very basic English who don't freeze at all. They repeat, they gesture, they laugh, they keep going.
And people understand them, not because their English is perfect, but because their energy is calm.
So let's reframe the freeze. Instead of thinking, my English is bad, try, my nervous system is activated.
That changes everything because you stop blaming your intelligence and start caring for your body.
And here's a small but powerful moment. Right after someone doesn't understand you, there's a tiny pause. That pause is your opportunity.
Not to rush, not to apologize, but to breathe.
Even one slow breath can tell your brain, it's okay, we're safe.
And once your body calms, your words come back. Not perfectly, but enough.
In the next block, we're going to talk about what actually to do in that moment. Not theory, real usable strategies.
How to repeat yourself without panic. How to rephrase without losing confidence.
Simple tools that keep the conversation alive. Okay, now let's talk about the moment itself. Not the theory, not what should happen, but what actually happens when someone looks at you and says, sorry, or what do you mean?
That moment feels heavy, like time slows down, like everyone is waiting. And inside your head, you're thinking, say something now.
Yes, and the first thing we need to say very clearly is this: you do not owe anyone speed.
That's huge because most people panic not because they don't know English, but because they feel rushed.
Exactly. So the first tool is not a sentence, it's permission. Permission to pause.
A pause feels dangerous, but it's actually powerful. A short pause says, I'm thinking, not I'm lost.
And native speakers pause all the time. They pause to think, they pause to rephrase, they pause because conversation is human, not robotic.
So, step one is simple. When someone doesn't understand you, pause for 1 second, just one.
Take a breath, not a dramatic breath, just a natural one. That breath resets your body.
Now, step two, do not repeat the same sentence immediately.
This is where most people get stuck. They say the same thing again with the same structure, hoping it magically works.
But if the sentence didn't work once, it probably won't work again.
Instead, simplify. Think, how would I explain this to a child?
Shorter sentences, fewer words, clear ideas.
For example, imagine you said, I was wondering if we could possibly reschedule the meeting due to a conflict. And they say, sorry?
Instead of repeating it, you can say, can we move the meeting to another day?
Same meaning, less pressure, more clarity.
And here's something important. Simple English is not bad English.
Say that again.
Simple English is effective English.
Many learners think complexity equals intelligence, but communication is about being understood, not about sounding impressive.
Now, let's talk about rephrasing without losing confidence, because tone matters.
Yes, instead of apologizing over and over, which makes you sound unsure, you can use calm transition phrases.
Phrases like, let me say that another way, or I mean, or what I'm trying to say is,
These phrases buy you time and signal confidence. They tell the listener, I'm in control of this conversation.
and they're very natural. Native speakers use them constantly.
Another powerful tool is examples. If words fail, examples save you.
Yes, if someone doesn't understand an idea, give them a situation.
For instance, instead of saying, I felt overwhelmed, you can say, I had too much to do, no time, and I felt stressed all day.
Now it's clear.
And here's something emotional but important. You don't need to hide your confusion.
That's true. You can say things like, I'm not explaining this well. Let me try again.
That sentence doesn't make you weak, it makes you human.
People respond to honesty. They relax when you relax.
I remember a moment when I was talking to someone and they clearly didn't understand me. I felt that familiar heat in my chest.
And what did you do?
I laughed softly and said, okay, let me restart. And suddenly the pressure disappeared.
Because restarting is allowed.
Always. Conversation is not a test, it's a process.
And one last thing for this block, if someone doesn't understand you, it does not mean you failed.
It means communication is happening. Misunderstanding is part of it.
In the next block, we'll go deeper into specific phrases that help you stay calm, confident, and clear.
Phrases you can rely on when your mind goes blank. All right, now we're entering one of the most important parts of today's episode. This block is not about grammar rules, it's not about perfect pronunciation. This block is about survival phrases.
These are the phrases you use when your brain freezes, your heart speeds up, and you suddenly feel like English disappeared.
Exactly. These phrases help you stay calm, keep control, and continue the conversation even when people don't understand you.
We'll go phrase by phrase. Before each one, we'll tell you which phrase is next. And each phrase will be explained slowly, deeply, and clearly.
So let's begin. The first phrase is, let me say that again. This phrase is powerful because it sounds calm and confident. You're not apologizing, you're not panicking, you're simply resetting. It tells the other person, I'm still here, I'm still in control. Examples. Let me say that again. I mean tomorrow, not today. Let me say that again, maybe more clearly. I once used this phrase during a phone call with customer support. I could hear confusion on the other side. Instead of rushing, I paused and said, let me say that again. And suddenly the conversation slowed down. The pressure disappeared.
The next phrase is, what I mean is, this phrase is extremely natural and spoken English. It helps you correct yourself without embarrassment. It's perfect when your first sentence didn't land well. Examples. What I mean is, I'll finish it later today. Or what I mean is, I don't need help right now. I remember explaining an idea in a meeting and seeing blank faces. Instead of stopping, I said, what I mean is, and simplified everything. That moment taught me clarity is more important than perfection.
The next phrase is, let me explain it in another way. This phrase gives you time and space. It tells the listener, I care about being understood, and people appreciate that. Examples, let me explain it in another way. It's more simple. Or let me explain it in another way with an example. I used this phrase once while giving directions to a tourist. The first explanation failed completely. The second one worked because I changed my approach.
The next phrase is, maybe a better example is, this phrase is gold when words aren't enough. Examples create pictures in the listener's mind. Pictures are easier than abstract words. Examples. Maybe a better example is when you miss a flight. Or maybe a better example is like cooking without a recipe. I once explained stress using a work example and no one understood. Then I used a daily life example. Everyone nodded immediately.
The next phrase is, does that make sense? This phrase invites connection. You're not asking for judgment, you're checking understanding. Examples, does that make sense so far? Or does that make sense, or should I explain more? When I started using this phrase, people stopped interrupting me. They felt included instead of confused.
The next phrase is, I'm trying to say, this phrase is honest and human. It shows effort, not weakness. Examples. I'm trying to say that timing matters. Or I'm trying to say it's not personal. I used this phrase during an emotional conversation. It softened the moment and helped the other person listen.
The next phrase is, let me start over. This phrase is powerful because it resets everything. Starting over is allowed, always. Examples, let me start over. The main point is, or let me start over and be clearer. Once I felt completely lost mid-sentence. I said this phrase and felt instant relief.
The next phrase is, in simple terms. This phrase removes pressure. It tells the listener, I value clarity, not complexity. Examples. In simple terms, we need more time. Or in simple terms, it's too expensive. This phrase saved me during presentations. Simple language created stronger connections.
The next phrase is, let me give you an example. Examples turn confusion into understanding. Examples, let me give you an example from my job. Or let me give you an example from daily life. Every time I felt misunderstood, this phrase opened the door again.
The final phrase is, tell me if this sounds clear. This phrase creates teamwork. You're not alone in the conversation. Understanding becomes a shared responsibility. Examples. Tell me if this sounds clear now. Or tell me if this sounds clearer to you. This phrase changed my mindset. I stopped feeling judged and started feeling supported.
These phrases are not fancy, they're real.
And they work because they respect both you and the listener.
In the closing, we'll talk about confidence, not as perfection, but as presence. All right, let's slow things down for a moment. If you're still here with us, it means this episode touched something real. Because this situation, when people don't understand you, it's not just about language, it's about how it makes you feel.
Yeah, and honestly, it could feel frustrating, embarrassing, even painful. Not because you don't know English, but because you do know what you want to say, and somehow it doesn't come out the way you imagined. That gap between thought and expression, that's where confidence gets tested.
Exactly. And I want to say something very clearly right now. Being misunderstood does not mean you're bad at English. It means you're human. It means you're communicating across cultures, sounds, rhythms, expectations. That's a complex thing.
I want to share a quick personal moment. There was a time when every time someone said, sorry, I don't get it, I immediately blamed myself, my accent, my vocabulary, my grammar. I felt smaller. But later, I realized something important. Even native speakers misunderstand each other all the time. They repeat, they rephrase, they explain again. The difference is they don't panic.
And that's the real goal of this episode. Not to eliminate misunderstanding, that's impossible, but to stay calm inside it, to remain present, to say, okay, let's try again. Because confidence in English is not about speaking perfectly. It's about not disappearing when things get uncomfortable.
Yes, confidence is staying in the conversation even when it feels messy, even when your sentence wasn't perfect, even when you need a second try.
Think about it this way. Every time you repeat yourself calmly, every time you rephrase without apologizing, every time you use one of today's phrases, you're training your brain to feel safe in English. And safety creates fluency.
That's huge because once your brain feels safe, words come faster, your voice sounds steadier, and your body relaxes.
So the next time someone says, I don't understand, try not to hear it as rejection. Hear it as an invitation to connect again in a different way.
And remember, you don't owe anyone perfection. You owe yourself patience.
Before we go, let's leave you with this thought. You are allowed to take space in English. You are allowed to take time. You are allowed to start over. That's not weakness, that's communication.
And if today's episode helped you even a little, if you thought, wow, this happens to me, then you're exactly where you need to be.
Thank you for being here with us. Thank you for listening slowly, for learning deeply, for choosing growth over silence.
In the next episode, we'll talk about something many people fear but rarely discuss, saying I don't know confidently, and how not knowing can actually make you sound stronger.
Until then, keep speaking, keep trying, and most importantly, speak without fear.
Thanks for watching. Don't forget to subscribe, like, share, and comment down.